Where's Thomas, the one person who won't stop complaining about this?
I know.
What a loser.
What can you do?
Just fire him.
What can you do? He's donezo.
Yeah.
Transfer all his closings to me.
Okay, well, I'm Barbara too.
Wait, sorry, no, it's really
Okay.
Kind
Kind of set you up for that one there.
Okay, guys, so here's what I want to talk about today. What I'm noticing pretty quickly is that as the year turned over, and I talked with JP, it seems like there's some similar aspects of this in your market too, in Phoenix. As the year turned over, all of a sudden competition just skyrocketed. And if you've been keeping up with the market or anything like that, what's going to lead to a lot of competition in 2020 is extremely low inventory. So inventory is at like an all-time low. Looking in the Denver metro area, there are just under 4,200 things for sale total in the Denver metro area. If you count 4,200. So, which like we're at the lowest of lows in our market at like when we were appreciating at 15%, like 3,500 was the lowest I ever saw. So like we have almost nothing. Whenever our market was at its height, in like 10 years ago, there were 30,000 homes for sale in the Denver metro area at any given moment. So inventory is extremely low. And so it's just the classic supply and demand. When there's not a lot of supply and there is a lot of demand, it drives prices. I think where we're at now is demand is not as high as it was 3 or 4 years ago, but supply is still so low that the market is still crazy, right? So what I want to go through is some notes on dealing with a crazy buyer's market. And there's a lot of aspects of dealing with a crazy buyer's market that is relevant to you guys. It's not just about writing an offer that's going to win, but it's also about finding opportunities for your buyers in a limited inventory market. Obviously, the issue is competition, but the best way to beat competition is to avoid it altogether. And so that's a lot of my strategies that I'll share today are around, yes, I want to be prepared for how to beat out 20 other offers. At the same time, I'd love to just avoid those offers altogether if I can. And so that's the idea there. So what I want to do is walk through different aspects of a crazy buyer's market and how to deal with it. So what I want to start with is understand the market. So your first job in a crazy buyer's market is understanding the market. And if the only thing you can say about the market is, man, it's a crazy buyer's market, then you don't understand the market. The problem that we ran into a lot in a crazy market is people just, if you were listing a home, you just assumed that if it had a door, it was going to sell. And for some agents that worked, and for other agents it didn't. But on the reverse, people also, I had listings where we listed the property and got 20,000 over asking price with one offer. We only got one offer. What was the mistake that agent made? A lot of mistakes. But one was they didn't ask about other offers on the table. They made the mistake that every price range and every type of home is crazy. And so they got the home. They paid way too much for it. And my friends Matthew and Tony Leonard benefited. So you got to understand the market. So what you guys need to know is that not every price point is crazy. So understand where and at what price points and property types we are experiencing craziness. So I just want to brainstorm real quick, and you guys can shout out from Phoenix or shout out from Denver. Name a niche someone's looking for, this type of property under this price point in this area. What's a niche right now that's crazy, that there's a lot of competition, not a lot of inventory?
Wait, what was the question?
What's a niche in the market right now that is really crazy?
God,
what was yours, Michelle?
Anything under 250 anywhere in Phoenix.
Sure. So there's going to be something true like that, right? Like anything under 250 in Phoenix is going to be crazy. For detached homes, you're saying? Just
like condos, townhouses, anything that is livable, it's going to be a bidding war and multiple offers the first day almost.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So just knowing, hey, if it's under 250, it's going to be crazy regardless of what it's at. Makes a ton of sense. Yeah, what else?
Under 400 in Aurora.
Under 400,000 in Aurora is what Natalia said. So if you're
Detached.
looking for a detached home in Aurora under 400,000, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. And I would say generally, I mean, this isn't true of everywhere, so you have to be careful. Generally, under 400 anywhere in Denver is relatively competitive, but you have to be careful because there are niches in the market where that's not true. So under 400 in 80219 is not quite as competitive. Under 300 or under 350 is. And so there's just certain parts. Under 400 is not that crazy in Commerce City. Under 350, under 300 is. So there's certain areas where it's a little bit more niche. Anything else you guys are noticing, like just crazy parts of the market that are competitive, moving fast?
Yeah, even
Anything entry level
like
is
450.
80129, 80126, and 80130.
Yep. So entry level in Highlands Ranch basically is what you're saying.
Yep.
Anything that might be viewed as like a starter home, it's going
Yep.
quick. So that could even be like Michelle listed a home at 450 in Highlands Ranch and got 10 offers or something and sold for 5 over. Yeah. What else were Thomas? What were you saying?
Yeah, it kind of just seems like starter homes in any area. So whether that's like Aurora, Highlands Ranch, Littleton, it just seems like things are moving fast. There's just an influx of people that are saying, hey, like we want to get in something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the important thing is you guys need to understand these things, right? And understand what we didn't say, right? What we didn't say is if you're looking for a $400,000 townhome in Highlands Ranch, it's not in the same market as a $400,000 detached home, right? Like, so understand the niches. Don't just assume everything is going to be crazy and insane. Next thing, understand why it's crazy. So like understand like what is driving price points, because if you can speak to it and demystify why everything is crazy, it's going to help your buyers and you're going to be a better fiduciary. So we already talked about it. Why is the market crazy? Record low inventory with middle to high demand, right? And so demand is still relatively high, inventory is record lows, and so supply and demand, that's going to drive a crazy market, right? Well, and why are the lower price points crazier? Because there's more demand for lower price points, because more people can afford lower price points. Why is homes between 700,000 and $1 million sitting in the foothills right now for several months? Because there's hardly anything available, but there's not as many people that can afford or want to be in those areas, right? And so those things are going to sit. The next thing for you guys to understand, like what's driving the crazy market, good interest rates and a good job market have kept demand high. So you guys may or may not know this, but from an economy perspective, one of the biggest issues with our economy in the past 5 years have been wages. Wages have not been keeping up with inflation. And last year was an extremely good year for wages. Like generally, people's income increased last year. Like they got raises or like job money went up. Part of that's because of extremely low unemployment. When unemployment is really, really low, there's a lot of competition for jobs, and that drives wages up. And that hadn't been true the past couple of years, but it was last year. So wages are high, interest rates are low, so people got more money, and borrowing money got cheaper, right? That's going to drive more competition, more buyers to the market. The other thing is our favorite friends, the millennials, are finally buying houses, okay? So, and this is like a nationwide thing where millennials are finally coming to the market. Millennials are benefiting from, hey, we're 10 years out from college or we're 5 years out from college. That student loan debt doesn't feel as much of a burden now. Maybe we still have it, but the $200 a month payment is a big freaking deal when I make $30,000 a year. It's not a big deal when I make $70,000 a year, right? And so they still have that debt most likely, but it's less a percentage of their overall income, and they're ready to buy. But here's a nuance about millennials you guys need to be prepared for. Millennials, more than any other people, are skipping the starter home, right? Millennials are skipping what you may consider a starter home. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, maybe less than 2,000 square feet like a tiny home, not a tiny home, a smaller home like that, like millennials more often than not are skipping that. They want the 3-car garage, the 4 bedrooms up. They want the second home directly. And so they'll spend for it, but a lot of times that means that they're going to jump straight into I want what Michelle Wolf had listed, a 3-car garage and 4 bedroom and a nice for under 5, versus I just want anything under 4. So anything under 4 is still going to be competitive because just from an affordability perspective, not a lot of people can afford it, so it'll still drive competition. But understand what millennials are pushing a lot is the second home. They're jumping straight to a bigger house, and so they're not going with the traditional, what you might find starter home. The people that are flooding traditional starter homes are the people that's all they can afford, right? So it might still be some millennials, but for the most part, it's spread across the entire market. Any questions on those things? Does that make sense? First step of the crazy market is understand it. Like, just demystify it. It's not just like, I don't know what the heck is going on, but homes are selling crazy. It's no, when a buyer hears you say, I don't know why, but our market is insane, like they get a little scared. They're like, well, if you don't know what's going on, then how are you going to help me attack this, right? If you know what's going on, like, listen, I understand what's going on, low inventory in this, and these are the drivers of the market, so I can help you navigate that and avoid some of that to help you get what you want. Then you're going to be a good fiduciary and be able to help them, right?
What was this part? Can we use that too?
Yeah.
Part?
Yeah, this is swimming
That's
around.
part of his buyer appointment.
Swimming around the
He's all,
competition.
Don't
There you go.
worry.
There you go. Were you on the call? You missed it then. Fancy little move there. Okay. So next thing is, so that's understanding the market. The next thing is setting proper expectations with the buyer. Okay. So it becomes extremely important. It's always important for you to set proper expectations for your buyer, but it is important that you let them know up front if they're looking in a crazy part of the market, that they are looking in the crazy part of the market and what that means. So make sure that they understand, they are prepared before it even happens, that they're going to be facing multiple offers. Like, let them know, like, we will most likely be up against multiple offers. Don't worry. I feel confident in getting your offer accepted, but some things you should be prepared for in that circumstance. Let them know that if there's multiple offers, you're not going to play the negotiation game. You're going to come in with your best and final from the get-go. Make sure they know that. If you don't explain that up front, you are going to have the buyer say, all right, you're going to say there's 5 offers on the table. And they're going to be like, okay, so do we start 10 under, 20 under? What do we start? Like, no, that's not how this works. Tell them it before they're in the situation so it's not an emotional decision for them. Sure. So I let them know up front. You're going to have multiple offers. If there are, we'll make sure, I'll check first. So, like, you're not going to do something crazy if there's not multiple offers, but you'll most likely run into multiple offers. So you're going to have to come in with your best offer right away. And oh, by the way, there might be some other things you need to do to make your offer strong. And I prepare them for the idea of an appraisal gap clause, limiting inspection clauses, things like that. So what I would recommend, if you guys don't, go through the writing competitive offers page in the home buying packet. Like, that's exactly what that page was written for, was setting expectations properly in a crazy buyer's market. So if you're like me, I haven't talked about it too much in a while because it hasn't been relevant for every buyer. It's going to start to become relevant more and more. So go through that page. It explains to the buyer, when we're presenting an offer, it's more than just purchase price. It's about your financing. It's about your contingencies. It's about your dates and your deadlines. So it lets the buyer know that we need to write a well-rounded offer. And if you're dealing with someone that you know has some things they can't control, like a VA buyer, and they need closing cost assistance, then you're going to have to tell them that we need to be strong.
I heard there were donuts, so I got her fast.
From Highland Ranch.
Then you need to be strong in everything that you can control. So we need to be strong in limiting our contingencies, in dates and deadlines, in inspections, and appraisal. I'm going to get into the actual writing of the offer later. So we'll talk about the actual writing of the offer at the end, but you need to set the expectation for your buyers in all those things. And the other thing I try to set the expectation for with them is this. Try to let them know, when it comes to buying a house, I don't believe in the soulmate philosophy. I don't believe that there's just one home out there for you. I believe that if you find something you like, you will find other things you like. So don't be discouraged if you fall in love with something and you miss out on it. If you fall in love with something, I feel confident that you'll find something else that you love. You want to set the expectations up front that they're going to get their heart broken and they need to be able to get back at it, because if you don't, then they may just try to give up halfway through, and that's not what you want, right? More than anything else in a crazy buyer's market, having buyers is not the problem. Getting your buyer something is the problem. The reason we ended up stop marketing in Aurora like 3 years ago was because we got plenty of buyers that were ready to go. We just could never find them anything because the competition was too hot and they weren't qualified well enough to get something. So marketing was too frustrating, and we moved our marketing over here so we had higher price points that were less competitive. So that's just for you guys to know. Setting proper expectations with buyers. Any other questions or thoughts on those two things? Understanding the market, setting expectations with buyers. Does that make sense? You guys just need to make sure that you explain all the potential craziness before you're in the heat of the moment, because when you're in the heat of the moment, it's going to be emotional. And when you're not in the heat of the moment, they can think rationally about it and go, okay, that makes sense. I will set my expectation now that I will have to offer over asking price, right? Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about finding opportunities for your buyers, okay? So if we have low inventory, then your problem is finding something your buyers like, right? In a market where there's a lot of options, you can do the bad agent philosophy, which is I'll set you up on a search and wait for you to reach out to me, because there'll be plenty of options and they'll reach out and they'll let you know, here's 5 different things. I love all of them. Let's go look and I'll choose the best, right? In a market where there's not many options, you set them up on a search and forget about it, they're not going to see anything they like, right? So they need help. The other thing about there's just not a lot of options is the options that do pop up, there's going to be a lot of competition for those options. And so, again, I'm going to reiterate, the best strategy to beating competition is avoiding it altogether, right? So Thomas jokingly said on Slack, are you telling me you're going to give me a strategy for beating a cash offer that's closing in 10 days, no inspection? 100%. Get to it before the cash buyer does, right? That's the only way to beat a cash buying offer. There are other ways too, but that's the best way. I'm not going to be able to compete. So a home that hits the MLS that goes live between Thursday and Saturday that's in those hot markets, there's probably going to be a lot of competition, right? Timing becomes really important. Looking at homes that hit the market on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays and showing those homes that same night become a lot more important. Like there are buyers that I would have never ever gotten them something if we didn't go look at a home that was listed on a Monday. And that agent just made a mistake, because if they would have listed it on a Thursday or a Friday, they would have had 10 offers. But they listed it on a Monday, and we only competed with 2 other offers, and we were able to win. So strategy number 1, check homes that are listed early and midweek. You'll have less competition for those. Get out and show them same day, write an offer same day, write a quick acceptance deadline, be the jerk, and try to avoid the competition, right? Meaning what I'll typically do is, it got listed, let's say it literally hits the market, they put it on Monday morning or Monday afternoon. We went and saw it Monday evening, wrote an offer that same evening, and set a noon or morning acceptance deadline the next day. So the only competition we're going to have was people that also saw it the Monday night that it hit the market, right? And I knew that might have been 1 or 2 other people, but not very many, right? So that's strategy number 1. Number 2, if you are not on coming soon boards on Facebook and not part of coming soon groups, you need to join those groups, okay? You need to go to Facebook and search coming soon and join every single real estate group that is assigned for coming soon. Because what's going to happen is these agents are going to say, I have something that's not on the market yet that's coming soon, and you're going to need to do your job and be the annoying agent that says, can I get in there? Can I get in there early? Can I get in there early? Can I get in there early? And they may say no, but they may say yes. And if you get in there early, the reason they don't want to let you in early is because you're going to write an offer, and you're going to write a 24-hour acceptance deadline or quicker before it even hits the market, and you're going to avoid the competition. Okay? Yep. So that's exactly how Natalia had one that had a really hard time getting some under contract. That's exactly her strategy. That's how she won. saw it before it hit the market, wrote an offer, got it under contract. So watch the coming soon boards as much as possible. Ask for early showings. The other part about that, post in the coming soon boards. Like if you don't see something for your buyer, post in the coming soon board, hey, I'm looking for a condo under 150, ideally something with a garage. Does anyone have something coming up? Right? Post in there because someone's got something they just haven't posted about yet, right? And then you could jump on it before it even hits the market. This is specifically for Denver people because I'm not sure about the Phoenix MLS. Denver just changed their MLS, and there's a new status you're going to notice in the MLS, coming soon. There's now a coming soon status in the MLS, but you only see coming soon for other people in your same brokerage. So you're not going to see coming soon for everybody. You're only going to see coming soon for people in your same brokerage. So go into the MLS every once in a while and just search for things that have a coming soon status and see if someone in this office has something coming soon that could fit your buyer, right?
Number one listing agent in Littleton works here.
Number one listing agent, hey? So check that. I don't know if the Arizona MLS has a coming soon feature on it or not. But ours just added that. So you can also, another piece of due diligence, I know we get super annoyed when an agent reaches out to us about our coming soon on Zillow, but you guys could also be checking Zillow for the coming soons that are posted on there. Zillow is going to show a bunch of is going to be the one site that has the most coming soon options of anywhere else. You can find who the agent is, reach out to them and say, hey, I see you have this home coming soon. Would love to take a look at it early. So Zillow is another place to check coming soon properties. One other thing to check for, well, one other option, put in the work. Do your own due diligence, meaning go knock on some doors. Go get in Cold Realty Resource and call or email people. Like cold reach out to a neighborhood and say, I have a buyer that is looking to buy in your neighborhood. There is literally nothing for sale. They're pre-approved up to $400,000. Have you ever thought about selling your home? Seems like it would be a good fit for my buyer. I mean, like, because it's grounded in legit reason that you have a buyer, who doesn't want to get that email as a homeowner? I'm not going to be annoyed by someone saying, I would love to pay $400,000 for your home if I think it's worth $375,000. I may not want to actually sell it, but I'm excited about that email.
I've also done that with expireds and canceleds.
Yep. That's a good thought. Yeah, like and when I was texting and reaching out to expireds just like a month ago, the number one response I got from them was, do you have a buyer? Do you have a buyer? If you have a buyer, they're excited to work with you. If you don't, then you're like every other agent that's trying to leverage the fact that they have a buyer just to get the listing, right? But 100%. So that's another point is start with expired listings on the MLS. Like go look at everything on the MLS that says expired. See if there's something that matches your buyer's criteria. Or look at withdrawn listings. Withdrawn listings are awesome because they're still with the original agent. They just haven't expired yet. So you can still reach out to the agent and say, hey, I know you're not for sale, but it seems like your home's a great fit, especially this time of year because the market just shifted. So there might be homes that they had listed all fall and during the holidays that didn't sell. So they withdrew from the market and they don't realize we're in a different market now and it would sell. So go look for expireds withdrawals in the MLS or, like JP said, reaching out to expireds and asking them about potential properties. You can go search through the expired database and see what their homes were and then reach out. Hey, that looks like that might have been a good fit. I have a buyer that might want to buy your house. Is it still for sale, right? The script there that works for me, call or text and legitimately just say, hey, is your home still for sale? That was it. Is your home still for sale? They may say yes or no, but if they say no, okay, are you planning to sell again soon? I have a buyer that would be interested in your house, right? So no brainer there. That's good. The last thing that I'll say about finding homes for your buyers or avoiding competition altogether, bad photos or work to be done are really good opportunities for your buyers. You need to help your buyers see behind bad photos or some work to be done, right? Because that's going to have less competition. Buyers don't know what they don't know, or they see it and they don't think it's a good opportunity, so they just avoid it, or it's a terrible photo. But you're a smart real estate agent. You know that photo is terrible, but you've been in that model home before, and you know it's actually a pretty decent house. They just have ugly furniture in there. Like Michelle and I were just talking about this yesterday. Her friends bought a house that, if you look at the old photos, it looks terrible, but it was only because all the furniture was really old. She's like, they've not touched this house at all. They just put new furniture in it, and now it looks like a updated home almost, right? So you need to help your buyers see creatively and go, hey, pause. Look past all this old furniture. The finishes aren't bad. It's just this furniture, right? So help them see past those things. The last thing I'll suggest is when you start to get used to things moving really, really fast, when you start to get used to things selling for over asking price, you and your buyers tend to avoid looking at homes over their price point, right? So if they're pre-approved at $350 and you know they're going to have to offer over their price point, you typically just tend to avoid anything over $350 because if it's at $355, I'm going to have to offer $365 and it's not going to work for us. Well, the one other niche to check for is look for like 7 to 10 plus days on market and like 10,000 over their price point. Because there will just be some homes, and we were talking about this yesterday, JP, there's just some weird homes that just sit. For some reason, like they're sitting and everything else is like selling quickly. So you could also run a search for 10 to 15 over their price point, but it's been on the market for at least 7 to 10 days. What I know about those is hopefully it's not going to have multiple offers, but there will probably be an opportunity to get it under asking price and still get under what they're pre-approved for, and there most likely won't be competition because it's been on the market for 1 or 2 weekends. I think the golden rule is probably 2 weekends. If it's been on the market 2 weekends, sellers are starting to panic a little bit if they don't have any offers. In our market, sometimes after the first weekend, they're panicking a little bit. So you might be able to get something after the first weekend. Yeah.
Because they built up expectations.
Yeah.
With the seller that, hey,
Yeah.
we're going to get this, and it's not happening.
Yeah.
So they're freaking out too.
Yeah, the agent was bad. They set expectations it's going to sell right away, and then they went through the first weekend and they're like, oh crap, we didn't even get any showings. What's going on? And so they may be willing to start taking under asking price offer after the first weekend, definitely after 2 weekends of missing out. So and just be smart about it. Like if it's been on the market 30 days, but it's because it was under contract for 25 of those days, like they're probably not taking under asking price. You know what I mean? Like they're hitting the market again and they're going to get asking price again. Questions about that section? Finding opportunities for your buyers. Are there other things that I missed that are good opportunities, good ways to find opportunities for your buyers that aren't just traditionally on the MLS?
I was just going to say, I mean, one thing that I've had a decent amount of success with when I'm in those, multiple offers situations is just getting the listing agent to flat out like me. I mean, I've won offers for clients that it wasn't necessarily the best offer, but I put in the legwork on the front side and I made that phone call to the listing agent to just flat out ask them, what's this going to take? I mean, what does your seller want? I mean, at the end of the day, all of our sellers want the most money, but we're all going to be held to appraisals. So, I mean, you tell me what it is that your seller wants and I'll do what I can to provide it. And a lot of times when you're just upfront with the agent and you have those conversations, and I'll even tell them, hey, I've got a transaction coordinator. This is going to be one of the smoothest, easiest transactions that you're going to have to deal with, because I've got somebody that I'm not going to be missing deadlines doing the paperwork on the back end for me. It puts a little bit more ease on the listing agent's mind to really push my offer over the next one that they didn't even have a conversation. They just submitted the offer. Yeah, it might be better, but they have no idea what kind of shit show they're going to deal with that other agent.
Yep. And I'll dive into more details about that right at the end when we talk about writing competitive offers. But the two things I like to say about that: one, your job is to make the listing agent feel really bad about calling you and telling you didn't get it. Like you need to make them feel really bad about giving you a call and having to say that. And number two, the more offers a home gets, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but in my opinion, the more offers a home gets, the more the listing agent is actually making the decision on the offer, more than the seller. there's too many factors and too many offers and the seller's
The seller
overwhelmed.
doesn't understand.
Yeah, the seller just doesn't understand like how to compare 10 different offers. So the way that you organize your offer sheet, the way that you categorize things, the way that you list your offers, like it's way more likely the listing agent is actually making that decision than the seller, because the seller just doesn't know. So exactly what you're saying, JP, the better rapport you can build, they're going to advocate for you over someone else. And so they're way more likely to say, listen, this is a higher price, but I think this one has a better chance of actually closing, right? The seller may still say, I'm going to chance on a higher price, but the listing agent makes the decision more often than not in those by the way they present the offers to the seller.
JP brings up a great point about, what does the seller want? And if you know you're in a multiple offer situation, ask that question, because it's not always about the money. If the seller wants 72 hours after closing to move, if the seller wants a rent back for a week, if the seller, wants a longer escrow or a shorter escrow for whatever reason, always ask that question so you can write the best offer.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. That's definitely part of it, is making sure you're asking, what is your seller's ideal offer, for sure. Okay. So the next section I'll talk about, and then we're going to dive into the competitive offers thing. Actually, there'll be two more quick things. One, dealing with buyer frustrations. So like I said, one of the best ways to dealing with buyer frustrations is setting proper expectations up front. You're going to find buyers get much more frustrated in a crazy, seller's market, right? Like they're way more frustrated because they're missing out. There's so much competition. So
The flip side of that is that nothing motivates a buyer like losing a house.
Yeah. So go back to the expectations you set up front. Hey, there isn't just one home out there for you. There'll be more that you love. Hey, this is normal. It's normal to miss out on some properties, right? Just setting the expectation, like most buyers that are looking for what you're looking for will write 3 or 4 before we get something accepted, right? Set proper expectations. I think it also is just good to acknowledge, like just proper like conversation etiquette when someone is upset, is just to say, that sucks. It does suck. It sucks to miss out on the home you love. I was just watching Parks and Rec the other day. This is going to be a great metaphor. Fits perfectly. Chris Traeger and the nurse, Ann, is that her name? Ann? They were having a baby. And Chris was driving her crazy because every time she complained about something, he was like, oh, well, don't worry, I'll get this to fix it. Or, oh, don't worry, I'll get this to fix it. And someone told him, you need to stop trying to fix it. He just needed to say, you know what, that sucks. That sucks. And the moment he said that, she was like, thank you.
Sometimes
So-
all our clients want is empathy.
Yep.
They don't
So
need a-
sometimes what they need is a little empathy for you to say, you know what, it does suck to miss out on a house you love. And just leave it at that. The other thing is, after every time you miss out on an offer, audit why you missed out. Just like really like do a postmortem and say, hey, here's why we missed out. Maybe, sometimes it's to help motivate them to do better the next time. Like, I told you about the inspection clause and you didn't do it this time. Like, that's why we missed out. And sometimes the conversation you need to have with the buyer is, we missed out because someone else did something stupid and you need to be okay with that, right? So one thing I put in here is, a lot of times the buyer gets really frustrated because the home was listed at $350 and they missed out on it. And you need to help them to understand, well, if that home sold for $375 and the person waived their inspection, this home, you didn't miss out on the $350 home. You missed out on a $375 home with no inspection guarantees. And so they need to understand, like, oh, you're right. So like anything that you're going to buy can start to look less attractive once the price starts to go up, right? And so you need to let them know, like, that was a great house at $350, but that's not what it sold for. So just set that aside and don't worry about it, because it wasn't a great house at $375 without inspections. Okay, my last strategy if a buyer gets frustrated, this is going to seem extremely counterintuitive, but it's worked for me a lot of times. Tell the buyer to take a break. Literally coach the buyer and say, you know what? Like, I usually only use this strategy if we've missed out on like 3 or 4 in a row. But typically what happens is, like, they go out on a weekend, they offer, they miss out. They go out on the next weekend, they offer, they miss out. So then the next weekend, they somehow figure out how to miss out on 2 homes in the same weekend, right? They missed out on 4 homes in 3 weekends, and they are just like it's just too hard for them to gear up to get heartbroken again this next weekend. And so sometimes the easiest thing to do is just say, listen, that sucks. Let's take a weekend off. Like, let's not look at homes next week. Let's just like take a break, not worry about it. I don't suggest longer than one weekend, but if you take one weekend off, you'll be surprised at what, like, their mindset has changed. They're ready. They're like, yeah, I'm ready to get heartbroken again. Let's do it. So taking one weekend off can make a world of difference in helping that buyer get their mind right. And just like, it is just really, really hard to just get told no over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, be a realtor.
Exactly. Exactly. Be an ISA.
Yeah, right. 8 lines.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it really is like the only thing they can think about is all the homes they missed out on and all the negatives. So they just need a break to pause and remember all the positives why they're doing this in the first place, right? And reset their mind. So suggest that you take a break. The last thing I will say is from a showings perspective, this is a little bit of what also what Thomas said with, or a couple people said this. They showed up at the house and then figured out it was already under contract. So in a crazy seller's market, best practice is if I'm going to go see 3, 4, 5 homes, I'm probably not checking in with the agent. Like, I'm just going to go and look at them, and there may be a couple that have already sold, but oh well, we have other options. If I'm going with a buyer, though, to go see 1 or 2 properties that I know are a great fit, if it's been on the market longer than 24 hours, I'm going to check in with the agent before I even go. Hey, we are excited to take a look at this property. Seems like it could be a great fit for my buyer. Do you have any offers? Just go ahead and have the offer conversation before you even go. I understand it might be extra legwork if they don't end up liking it and offering on it, but it will save you time and energy and money if they tell you, you know what, we already have an offer. Because what I've had happen in that situation more often than not is, hey, we do have an offer. We're actually looking to sign it soon. Hey, would you mind waiting till we're done looking at it because we might like this home? And then literally, I've had situations where, all right, I'm going to go to a coffee shop right now, write it up, submit it within an hour, and they accept our offer versus the other one because they have nothing to lose. They're about to take that other offer. So they have no incentive to look at our offer unless we can present them a better offer. So a lot of times they're very honest in that situation. Like, listen, we're about to accept an offer. Here's what it is. If you can beat it, then I'll wait. We can beat it, you write it, and you can get it done. So so if you're only going to go see 1 or 2 and you know it's a great fit for your buyer, especially if your buyer's already missed out on a couple offers, then check in with the agent before you go. What you're going to find is when you have buyers that start missing out on offers, they pretty much get to the point where they start offering on everything that they see. Like, you get to a point where they only look at homes they want to offer on.
We even write offers on homes they haven't seen.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you get to a point if they missed out on 3 or 4, I could write up the offer and then go do the showing because I just know like they've narrowed it down. They've started to loosen their criteria. They're going to offer on anything. Right. So check in with the agents first so you're not wasting your time. And so you could be a good fiduciary for your buyer. You may create an opportunity that doesn't exist if you don't check in until after the offer, after the showing. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, the last thing I want to talk about in the last 15 minutes is writing competitive offers, okay? What I'm going to say with this is we have a best practice written for writing competitive offers in our agent manual. It is under working with buyers, and then it says writing competitive offers. So if you guys want a refresher on writing competitive offers, go and look at this best practice that I printed out. I'm not going to go too in depth, but the one thing that I will say up front is exactly what JP already hinted at. The most important thing you can do in writing a competitive offer is the conversation you have with the listing agent. It's the most important thing that happens in the entire offer situation for 2 reasons. One, because you build rapport, like JP said, and you're building that relationship and making them like you. Just like JP said, like, you want to let them know that we have a TC. It's going to be a super smooth transaction. I've closed plenty of deals. I'm not just some random agent that doesn't know what they're doing. Like, you want to reassure them that this thing's going to get to close. My buyers aren't going to be nitpicky. They're approved. This isn't going to fall out. And you want to, just like with a buyer or a client, build rapport. Start by asking questions, find some common ground, and build rapport, right? Get them laughing about something. You can get them laughing about something, like you're going to make a connection there, right? suggestions for questions to ask them. But basically, an agent is going to try to not share anything. They're going to try to avoid sharing a lot, primarily because they're not really they need to treat every agent evenly. So if they tell you a bunch, they're supposed to tell every agent the same thing. So it doesn't mean they can't tell you if there's other offers, but if they do, they have to tell the other agents the same thing, right? So, but that's not on you. Like, what's on you is to get as much information as they're going to give you. So here's some suggestions of questions to ask them. Bluntly ask them these questions. Do you have any offers over list price? Are any offers waiving appraisal or inspection? Don't open-ended say, what do those offers look like? Ask them directly. Are any of your offers waiving appraisal or waiving inspection? Ask them directly. Are any offers including appraisal gap coverage? How do you feel about the home appraising? Why do you ask them that? Because the worse they feel about the home appraising, the more they're going to push an offer that has an appraisal gap in the offer. Okay? Does the seller have any major concerns about the house? Would the seller accept an escalation clause? You guys know what an escalation clause is? Okay. You say, hey, I'm offering, it's like eBay bidding. I'm offering $350, but if there's an offer over ours, we'll increase our offer up to $360 and we'll beat the next highest offer by $1,000, right? Sometimes sellers hate those. And so don't submit an escalation clause if they're just going to disregard because you're not paying attention to what they're saying. Would your seller consider an escalation clause? Is there anything that we can offer that will help us stand out? What is the seller's situation, or what is the seller's ideal offer, right? And I also like to ask, how many offers do you have? How many offers? What you're going to find is, if you ask them how many offers and they tell you, give me a call or give Nick a call, because we've been in the market long enough that we know 5 offers means this much over asking price. 20 offers means this much over asking price. So before you write up that offer, give us a call with that info. Give your team lead a call and say, here's the situation. What do you think? And we should be able to give you a pretty good advice on. I mean, there's situations where we beat out 20, 30 other offers. And not by a huge margin, but by a slim margin, because we knew that it meant this, 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 and this, right? So ask how many offers, ask those other questions, then come report back to the team lead so we can help you build a good offer, okay? Run comps when in a crazy market. Run comps so that you know what it's going to appraise at. Why? So that your buyer understands their risk and it not appraising. So you want to run comps and say, listen, there's what I think it's going to appraise for, and there's what it's going to take to win. So the only reason I'm running the appraisal is for you to understand how much over you might be offering above appraisal and what we might need to do from an appraisal gap perspective, right?
Hey, Tyler, how does the shift in the market affect how we comp stuff from like a timing perspective? Like,
You need to put a lot less weight, in my opinion, in what the home appraises at in terms of the investment that the buyer is making. When when it's a crazy seller's market, homes are appreciating so fast that a comp from 6 months ago is not what the home is worth today, right? So you need to do a little bit of a better job at saying like, hey, like let's run comps in every house to make sure that you're getting a good deal. No, like if it's what you're looking for and you can get a house, then you've gotten a deal. If you can get a house in this market, you've gotten a deal, because a lot of people want houses and you got one. So you're running comps not to say like, ooh, is this a good opportunity for you or not? You're running comps to say, here's where your offer is going to be compared to appraisal. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that means we need to be prepared with an appraisal gap clause. So I think you run comps from a different perspective. If all you're running comps to do is to say, let's find a house where I feel like you're going to be able to offer way less than what it's worth, then your buyer's never going to get something in a crazy market. So does that answer your question?
a little bit, but like, I guess the question is, how far back should we be looking, or like what time frame should? Because right, we're so close to things being so dead, and now things are so crazy. I guess that's more my question.
Like it's hard to answer that question right now because we don't have a huge market of it being crazy. The shorter back, the better when you're appraising homes in a crazy market. Like there'll be times where I only go back 3 months if there's enough comps, because 4 months ago is not relevant. I mean, when it really is a crazy market and it's appreciating at 10% or more, like 2 months ago is not a comp. Because literally the way people price things in a crazy seller's market is they look at all the comps, they look at the best comp, and then they price it like 5 above or 10 above. And they're like, if that was the best home, then we'll beat that by 5 or 10, and they'll still get 10 over, right? And so I'm not saying it's going to be that crazy this year. I'm just saying, like, the shorter the better when looking at comps in a crazy seller's market. But what I would do now, the reason I say that answer is nuanced, Thomas, is because I think you're actually right now in this market, you're going to find better comps from a year ago than you are going to be from 3 months ago, because the market was crazier last spring than it was last fall. You will find higher price comps if you go back a year than you do 6 months. So right now, when I'm running comps, I go back a year. I would recommend going back a year until we get about 3 to 4 months into the year, and then only go back to the beginning of the year. Then cut it off and start only looking 3 to 4 months back. So, does that make sense? Cool. Next thing is, when you're meeting with your client, I'm not even going to go into this. This is just going over that sheet that I explained in the buyer agent appointment. Go over all the aspects of writing a well-rounded offer. Make sure the client knows it's more than just purchase price when it comes to writing a good offer. And so if they're going to be weak in certain areas, they need to make that up by being strong in other areas. And then at the end of the day, we need to write whatever they can write and just deal with it, right? So if they can't be the best in every category, or they can't even be great in any category, you got to write what they can write. And then your best strategy is going to be to avoid competition altogether, right? Next, understand your client's top dollar so you can be aggressive. You really, like, in any given house, like, winning in a multiple offer situation is making sure you understand what your client's top dollar is. So you really need to say, at what price point, if someone offered $1,000 more, like, you'd be comfortable missing out, because, like, even $1,000 more is just too much for you, right? Make sure that they set a price point where they're at peace if someone offers more than that. And then they just need to be okay, like, yes, you missed out, but someone was stupid and offered too much, so let's move on, right? Understand that. And then the other strategy is obviously submit every single offer with a lender letter, with, building rapport to the listing agent, expressing to the listing agent how much your client likes the home, how much they are not going to try to back out halfway through the process. Ask the lender to call the listing agent to verify the buyer's candidacy. If you don't have a lender that's willing to call the listing agent, get a lender that is willing to call the listing agent. Check in. And here's another thing. A lot of times you're going to find in these situations where they're like, offers are due Sunday at 5 p.m. and we'll make a decision Monday at noon or something like that. You want to check in as close to the deadline as possible so you have all the information. So if you do submit your offer on Saturday, you better be calling them at 3 or 4 on Sunday right before the deadline is expiring and asking them, hey, what does it look like now? How many offers do you have now? Asking all those questions again so you could increase your offer if you need to. In an ideal world, just wait till right before the deadline to submit your offer, because some of those people, they're just not going to take an early offer. And so you wait till close to deadline so that have all the information, right? So that's the idea there. The other thing about a crazy seller's market is the amount of deals that fall out increases. It's a little counterintuitive. You would think that because it was so dang hard to get a house, people would stay under contract. But the issue is buyers are like, I gave you everything in the kitchen sink in order for you to accept my offer, so you better give me what I want come inspection time. And what is the seller thinking? The seller's thinking, I had 9 other offers. So you're going to do whatever I want come inspection time, or I'm just going to go to offer number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. The other thing is buyers jump on things so quickly or offer so much that they experience some buyer's remorse, because they're like, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that. Or they offer before they truly know they're qualified, and they fall out because of loan stuff, right? Lenders get really excited because the buyer's like, I need to offer right now or else I'm going to miss out. So the lender just gives them a pre-qual, and then they're not actually qualified come 3 weeks later. So when you really get into a crazy buyer's market, sorry, a crazy seller's market, what the seller's going to be looking for more often than not is not top dollar, but likelihood of closing, right? And pretty much at any market, that's what the seller's looking for, is likelihood to close. So most of the time in a crazy seller's market, the top offer does not win. It is, you got to be in the top tier, but it is, if you're in the top tier, the top range, and you have the highest likelihood of close because you're offering an appraisal gap and you're limiting the inspection, and the lender called and let them know you're really well approved, then they're way more likely to go with you. Does that make sense? The last thing I will mention is dates and deadlines. Just go and look at our this best practice if you want to see the actual dates and deadlines. But what's going to help you is writing tight dates and deadlines. Get your inspection done as quick as you can get it done. Get your appraisal done as quick as you can get it done, right? Like if you can say that you're going to close in 28 days versus 30 days, do that. Check in with your lender. How quick could we realistically close this thing, right? Ask the lender if you could put a rush on the appraisal, right? It may cost the buyer a little bit more, but if it costs the buyers $300 more to rush the appraisal, and that's the difference in getting this house versus having to offer $5,000 more, it's going to be worth it, right? Check in with the lender on those things. See if you can get that done in 21 days. There are lenders out there who can get a conventional loan done in 21 days. So like, keep asking around, figure out if they can. Work with lenders that can. And again, like Mark said, check in with the listing agent first to figure out what the seller actually cares about or wants. Because it may be they don't care about closing quickly. They'd rather have a longer closing. We had one yesterday that I got under contract where we submitted a 30-day close and they asked for a 45-day close. But we kept our loan objection and everything tight so that, you know, everything's going to be settled in 30 days, but we'll just be waiting on closing for 2 weeks. We don't have to worry about a post-occupancy. They just wanted to delay closing. So that's what we did. All right, what thoughts or questions you guys have before we wrap up? We have a couple minutes left. What are you guys thinking?
I just want to point out a couple of things that you can put in the contract to make your offer more attractive. And one is paragraph 8.1.2. You know, the buyer selects the title insurance company instead of the seller.
Yep.
You can take
Good point.
$1,500 off of the seller's plate by doing that. And then also paragraph 15 in Colorado's contract, where you have these prorations. If you are looking at, you know, the closing services fee, the status letter, record change fee from the HOA, any transfer taxes, private transfer fees, water transfer fees, any of those that you can take off the seller's plate, it's going to make your offer a little bit more attractive, even if it's a couple $100. So pay attention to those as well.
Yep. Yeah, I had someone do that to me when I was a listing agent. They basically said, any cost on the contract that could be buyer or seller, I'm going to put it on the buyer.
Yep.
So the buyer selects and pays for title insurance. By the way, if you do that, then you get to select the title company. You can work with someone you trust. Buyer has to pay for it, but again, instead of increasing the offer another $2,000, $5,000, have them pay $2,000 worth of these miscellaneous fees in the contract, so the seller legitimately has almost no cost besides commission, right?
Yeah, paragraph 9 as well, new ILC and new survey. If you're in a PUD, a planned urban development, and the house has been there for 10, 15 years, you don't need that stuff.
Yeah,
So
don't put the survey
don't
deadlines,
muddle
yeah.
up, don't muddle up your contract by putting in erroneous dates and deadlines that don't even need to be there.
Yeah, I got like ILC dates on a listing that was a condo, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what's
right?
happening?
Yeah,
And I'm
exactly.
like, why
Yeah.
is this here?
Like really audit if you need due diligence documents or not. Like, don't just have a clause where you always ask for manuals or this or that. Like, it's just one extra step.
Yeah.
It's that many less dates that pop up in the dates and deadlines. Like, if your buyer does not absolutely need those, they don't need to be able to cancel because of those documents. They just want them. Write it into your inspection.
Leave your own ego out.
Yeah, exactly. Just like don't even add those dates. Like add less if you can. Like, don't put the
Yeah.
survey, don't put the due diligence if you can avoid it.
A listing agent up north just told me he liked our offer because we didn't go crazy over asking, but we were competing. And he's like, this contract is super clean. You don't have anything in here that's like, I need a counter out. So they just signed on the dotted line. So.
And that's big. Like, if you can write an offer that does not need to be countered, they will be more likely to sign yours because we are lazy and we don't want to do the extra work. And so if I don't have to counter it, I'd rather just sign it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm going to do on that situation.
Another question.
Mhm.
How much are those title fees if the buyer goes ahead and takes them on, just so I can kind of have.
It's about $1,500.
Yeah, it's about 15.
Okay,
It depends on how long the sellers own the home.
and that's just for the closing costs, not like if there's an HOA status letter to move over or.
That's just for the title.
That's
Okay,
just
so
the
about
t-
1,500, so about $2,000 if
Owner-
it has HOA to move over.
Owner
Okay.
title insurance policy.
It
It's
can be less depending on the title company, and it also can be less if they have refinanced within the last 5 years. They'll give them a reissue rate
Okay,
instead of a
Cool.
standard.
that's good to know.
it's a percentage.
Purchase price.
It's a
Yeah.
percentage of the
Yeah.
purchase
Okay.
price. So like if it's a $700,000 home, it's going to
It'd
be
be a little
more than
higher.
$1,500.
Okay,
$1,500, but
what percentage is it?
it's like 0.75% or.
A lot of title companies on their websites will have a scale, and it'll
Okay.
show you if it's between this amount and this amount, it's gonna be this. If it's between 6 and 675, it's gonna be this.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, and then it's also affected by how long they own the home. So you get a reissue rate discount,
Okay.
the less amount of years they've owned it.
Okay,
So it can discount it down to
Yeah,
like
they
less
own
than
it or-
0.5% of
Or
purchase price.
refinance
nice, great, thank you.
Hey, Tom, last question would be, what do we tell investors right now? Just to hold off?
No, I think like,
it. Jump in there.
with an investor, I mean, it depends on what they're looking at, but I think that if they're looking at a fix and flip, now's a great time because you're gonna have a lot of competition for what you're trying to sell. If you're buying a rental, I mean, like I was just listening to this chapter in Shift. Like, you're never gonna be able to time the market perfectly, and so the market's going up, but as an investor, you have an advantage, like because hopefully you have cash or you have something that appears a little bit better than just like a normal person that's jumping in the market with only 5% down. So this is a market where there's not a lot of inventory, but you'll be able to win. Like, you'll be able to win in those offers. So you'll be able to get what you want. So I mean, I wouldn't hesitate in a crazy market for an investor.
But I guess, yeah, that was not a great question. But to prepare them, it's like, hey, like, you're going to probably have to come in at asking, right? Even with cash.
Yeah, so I mean, like that's the mistake that investors make, that you need to make sure an investor knows from the get-go. Getting a great deal does not always mean under asking price. Getting a great deal means getting a property that you know is going to cash flow, and smart investors know that. People that are not experienced investors, the way that they protect themselves is, well, if I get it dramatically under list price, then it must be a good deal. If they're smart, they know that's not true. And they know that I can get a great deal over list price. So if you have an investor that's not willing to buy something at or above list price, then they just may not be worth your time. Like, you need to set the expectation. In this market, you need to be willing to offer over asking price. But even at over asking price, we can get you great deals. And if they're not willing to do it on your terms, then don't work with them. It's not going to be worth your time. So you're going to waste a lot of time with investors that aren't willing to do it your way. So make sure they're willing to do it your way.
A lot of people think.
I'll do it my way.
What the hell? Mark's talking.
A lot of people think
That amount.
are like
Yeah.
the best offer out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter to
Yeah.
in the end to the seller. The
Yeah.
money's coming from whatever place it comes from.
Yeah.
So don't think because you're writing a cash offer at $5,000 below list that you're automatically going to be, given more weight than a full price offer with a solid lender.
Well, and yeah, solid lender, especially if I'm offering an unlimited appraisal gap or I'm offering money over appraisal. Like, the one thing that makes me excited about a cash offer is there's going to be no appraisal and no loan contingencies. But if you've taken out the appraisal contingency because you're going to offer over appraisal if it appraises low, and the lender's really saying like they're already through underwriting and they're good to go, then like this conventional offer is just as good, So yeah, that's what we need to let them know. Like cash is great, but like it's not going to trump an offer that's 10 or 20 above where you're at. So
Great.
all right, I think they have a class in here, so we're going to shut it down. Thanks, guys. If you have more questions, reach out. I'll be happy to talk with you more about this.
Mark, June appointment to actually show up.